Brothers and sisters, today's message is about something that every believer is called to live out. Being an example to others. Whether you know it or not, someone is always watching you. Your words, your actions, and even your attitude can either point people closer to Jesus or push them further away. Paul said in 1 Timothy 4:12, "Let no one despise you for your youth, but set the believers an example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, in purity." Notice Paul didn't just say, preach the gospel. He said, be an example. Our lifestyle should match the message we preach. Being an example is one of the most powerful forms of evangelism because people often see Christ in you before they ever hear about Him from you. Point 1. Why being an example matters. The first reason being an example matters is because the world is watching. Jesus said in Matthew 5:14-16, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Your light is not just what you say, it's how you live. When the world looks at you, do they see Jesus? Or do they see compromise? We live in a culture where many people don't read the Bible, but they will read your life. You may be the only Bible someone ever encounters. If they see you living with integrity, kindness, humility, and faith, they will be drawn to the God you serve. But if they see hypocrisy, dishonesty, and selfishness, they will question if God is real at all. Being an example matters because it either validates or contradicts the gospel message. Point 2. Being an example in speech. Paul told Timothy to be an example in speech. Words are powerful. Proverbs 18:21 says, "The tongue has the power of life and death." Your words can build someone up or tear them down. Your words can point someone to Christ or push them away. Being an example in speech means speaking truth, encouragement, and kindness. It means avoiding gossip, slander, lies, and profanity. Colossians 4:6 says, "Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone." The way you talk to your family, friends, co-workers, and even strangers should reflect Christ. Ask yourself, if someone only knew Jesus by the way I speak, what kind of picture would they have of Him? Even in disagreements, your speech should reflect humility and love. People are watching not just what you say, but how you say it. Do you respond in anger or in gentleness? Do you speak life or death? Remember, your mouth is one of the biggest testimonies you carry. Point 3. Being an example in conduct. Next, Paul said, to be an example in conduct, that means your lifestyle, your daily decisions, your habits, the way you treat people, the way you work, the way you live when nobody is watching. 1 Peter 2:12 says, "Live such good lives among the pagans that, though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day He visits us." In other words, even if people don't agree with your faith, they won't be able to deny your integrity. Being an example in conduct means living with honesty, purity, and responsibility. It means showing up on time to work. It means treating people with respect. It means being faithful in marriage. It means resisting temptation. It means living in such a way that people can trust your word because your lifestyle backs it up. When you say you're a Christian, people are watching to see if your life matches your words. Your conduct should leave no room for doubt. Point 4, being an example in love. Paul also told Timothy to be an example in love. Love is the foundation of the Christian life. Jesus said in John 13:35, "By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." Love is the greatest witness you can carry. Being an example in love means showing patience, forgiveness, compassion, and generosity. It means loving people even when they don't love you back. It means serving others without expecting anything in return. 1 Corinthians 13 describes love as patient, kind, not self-seeking, not easily angered, and always protecting, trusting, hoping, and persevering. That's the kind of love that should flow from our lives. People are not won to Christ just by arguments or debates. They're won by love. When people see that your love is genuine, they will be drawn to the God who empowers you to love that way. Point 5, being an example in faith. Paul also said to be an example in faith. Faith is not just what you believe, it's how you live out what you believe. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." Being an example in faith means trusting God in difficult times. It means living in a way that says, "God is my provider, my protector, and my source." When you walk by faith, people will notice. They'll see your peace in the storm. They'll see your joy in the trial. They'll see your confidence in the promises of God when everyone else is filled with fear. An example of faith is Abraham, who obeyed God even when it didn't make sense. Another example is Daniel, who prayed even when it could cost him his life. Your faith is not just for you, it's a testimony to others. When people see your faith, they'll want to know the God who sustains you. Point 6, being an example in purity. Finally, Paul told Timothy to be an example in purity. Purity means being set apart. It means living clean in a world that celebrates compromise. It means guarding your heart, your eyes, your mind, and your body. Matthew 5:8 says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." Purity allows you to walk in intimacy with the Lord, but it's also a powerful example to others. In a world filled with immorality, living pure shines brightly. Purity doesn't just apply to sexual integrity. It applies to honesty in business, motives in ministry, and sincerity in relationships. Purity means living with a clean conscience before God and man. When you choose purity, people notice. They see that you don't cut corners, you don't cheat, you don't compromise. They see that your heart is set on God, and that becomes a testimony to them. Point 7, the power of consistency. Being an example is not about one big moment. It's about consistency over time. People are watching how you live day after day, not just in the spotlight moments. Consistency builds credibility. Consistency proves your faith is real. Luke 16:10 says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." If you're faithful in the small things, God will entrust you with greater influence. But it starts with being consistent in your example. Don't just be an example on Sunday at church. Be an example on Monday at work. Be an example at home. Be an example when you're alone. Consistency shows that your faith is not an act. It's who you are. Point 8. Being an example is discipleship. One of the most powerful forms of discipleship is simply living as an example. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 11:1, "Follow my example as I follow the example of Christ." That's discipleship, inviting others to follow you as you follow Jesus. Parents, your kids are learning more from your example than from your words. Leaders, your team is watching how you live. Friends, your peers are influenced by your choices. Being an example is not about perfection. It's about pointing people to Christ through your lifestyle. When people see Christ in you, they will be inspired to follow Him themselves. Your life becomes a living sermon that speaks louder than words. Practical steps to being an example. So how can you practically be an example to others? Stay rooted in the Word. Let Scripture guide your thoughts, words, and actions. Pray daily, ask God to strengthen you to live as an example. Guard your speech, speak words of life, not death. Walk in integrity, do what you say you will do. Love unconditionally. Show Christ's love in practical ways. Live by faith. Trust God even when circumstances look impossible. Pursue purity. Keep your heart and life clean before God. When you practice these disciplines daily, you'll naturally be an example that points people to Jesus. Being an example is not about being perfect, it's about being surrendered. When you let Christ live through you, others will see Him in your life. Remember what Jesus said in Matthew 5:16. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So I encourage you today, live in such a way that when people look at you, they see Jesus. Be an example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. Your life is a testimony. Your example can change lives. Don't underestimate the power of living for Christ in front of others. If this message blessed you, make sure to like, comment, and share it so others can be encouraged too. And don't forget to subscribe for more teachings to help you grow in your walk with Christ. Drop a comment below. In what area do you feel God is calling you to be a stronger example right now? Speech, conduct, love, faith, or purity? Let's encourage each other as we live as examples for Christ.